Holloway shows some mortality.
Look at this. Holloway just told him, stand right here.
Oh, big connection late. That'll do it. With 1 second to go. Gaethje face first on the canvas.
Mixed martial arts, a battleground of triumphs, setbacks, and everything in between. But beyond its physical intensity lies a hidden game, the battle of perception. Fighters train relentlessly to land that perfect punch, yet sometimes victory isn't solely determined by skill or damage. It's shaped by the eyes watching, by the subjective judgments of those scoring the fight. In this video, we'll be discussing one of MMA's most debated topics, the subjectivity of scoring. How do judges really determine a winner? And more importantly, how can fighters better communicate a win without landing that picture-perfect punch? Before we begin, let's clarify some terminology. For starters, MMA is a combination of multiple disciplines, most notably boxing, kickboxing, and wrestling. When we talk about decisions in MMA, we're referring to fights that go the distance, meaning neither fighter secures a knockout or a tap-out submission within the allotted fight time. A fight that goes to a decision enters the realm of scoring subjectivity by 3 judges. In those cases, a winner is determined using a 10-point judging system. Furthermore, all fights are scored by round, meaning that if a fighter wins a round, he is given 10 points, while his opponent secures 9 points. After the completion of all rounds, scores are added to a total to which the fighter with the most points achieves victory. And while judging is subjective, it does follow one key premise: damage. And while there are other factors such as volume of punches or kicks, damage alone is the most important metric for success. However, there is one key problem with this framework, and it begs the question, how can one determine a winner if there hasn't been damage done? What if both fighters simply do not engage? Similarly, what if a round is extremely close? What if both fighters are of equal skill? To that end, there must be other nonverbal factors that influence scoring. Fighters who can communicate dominance stand a better chance in the decision. Confidence is crucial. Raising both hands between rounds, projecting energy, and avoiding passive body language can all influence the perception of control. And we've seen fighters mirror this in many instances where fights have been razor close. Confidence lies on a spectrum. However, in a study conducted by Dr. Whitman, he found that while some fighters entertain fans through showboating, judges generally frown upon it, viewing excessive antics as a lack of seriousness. That said, popularity and crowd control matter just the same. Mixed martial arts isn't just a sport, it's a spectacle. From the moment a fighter steps into the arena, every moment, every choice, every perception can tip the scales. Case in point, subconscious biases. If every time a fighter lands a punch and the crowd goes wild, you best believe those judges will perceive that strike as more significant than a strike that receives no praise. As arbitrary as it may seem, the gladiator hit it right on the nose. You win the crowd, you win the fight. A good and somewhat controversial example is Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley. As it stands, Sean O'Malley is a huge fan favorite, and every time Sean landed a punch in their fight, escaped a compromised position, or really anything, the crowd went wild. I remember watching this fight live on TV, and even I could hear the crowd in that arena. With that being said, Sean O'Malley did not win that fight, and many others share my opinion. I mean, just look at Daniel Cormier's face. Even he didn't think Sean won that fight. The final moments of a round matter more than fighters think. Psychologically, people tend to remember the last action they saw most vividly. Researchers call this recency bias. Fighters who tend to finish rounds strong, therefore, tend to win the judge's favor. A prime example of this was in Jon Jones, pictured left, versus Dominic Reyes. Note that 2 of the 3 judges scored round 2 in Jon Jones' favor. Now compare that with the objective statistics. In round 2, Dominic Reyes landed 33 significant strikes, which is a ton, especially in the 205-pound weight class. There are also other nonverbals in MMA that have more significance than you'd think, hair being one of them. Let's face it, if every time a fighter absorbs a punch and his hair is flung around, that definitely will have a perceptual impact on the damage of that strike. This is precisely the reason why Paddy Pimblett decided to wear cornrows. Another sign of damage is the fighter's movements in the octagon. This statistic is growing in popularity, and from a fan that has been watching MMA for a long time now, I can confidently say that just because a fighter is moving forward or backwards, that doesn't mean he's losing or winning the fight. It's simply not a metric for success. Damage is, and damage alone. Lastly, and this factor is too often overlooked, blood. UFC veterans such as Nate Diaz, pictured left, that have been fighting for many years obviously have more scar tissue than younger fighters. And according to the National Library of Medicine, scar tissue is comparatively weaker than healthy tissue. Furthermore, scar tissue is more prone to reopening, amounting to significant blood loss. And obviously, it goes without saying, the fighter who is bleeding more tends to be perceived as losing the fight, which is usually the case, except when fighters with a lot of scar tissue fight opponents with not as much scar tissue. To conclude, some solutions. In my opinion, to help eliminate bad scoring, MMA needs to eradicate the 10-point judging system. Instead of treating rounds in a pass-fail framework, I propose MMA scoring implement a decimal system. A decimal system with values from 1 to 100 would better reflect a fighter's success. My system would still remain subjective, but I believe if all MMA judges learn these nonverbals and how they influence biases, then MMA will be one step closer to objective scoring. Thank you for watching.